Good evening. I'm Leslie Rohde. Robert Hadlock is off tonight. We begin in Bastrop County, where today, September 4th, is a day thousands of people will never forget. It was a year ago when out-of-control wildfires burned through thousands of acres there and destroyed nearly 1,700 homes. As a community, Bastrop is now rebuilding, but some property owners there say that they're getting hit again, this time with their property appraisals. Our lead investigator, Chris Willis, joins us now in the studio to explain. Chris?
Good evening to you. We've heard from several homeowners in Bastrop County, all with the same question. How can their property appraisals and subsequently their property taxes go up when everything on their land burned down? So we went back to Bastrop to find out.
You know, it's real hard to tell. This was probably the top of a ceiling fan right there.
Out in Bastrop County, on Pine Shadows Lane, there are not many pines left, and shadows are hard to come by too. For 31-year-old Troy Woodland, the only thing left in the ashes and rubble are memories.
It had 2 living rooms with 2 fireplaces, 3 bedroom, 2 bath, humongous kitchen, humongous dining room.
For 11 days, unable to return and unaware that they had lost every single thing they owned.
And then you start realizing, wow, I don't have socks.
Right.
I mean, if somebody was to break into your house and steal your TV, it'd make you furious.
Right.
Imagine if somebody came over and stole everything you had.
And when Troy says everything he had, he means everything. His home, where he sat with his family out on the deck, went from this to this. The yard where his 2 daughters played, gone in a literal instant. His 2 vehicles burned so badly, the transmission actually melted and flowed into what was a creek. And that humongous kitchen and dining room, now a pile of cinder, embers, and soot. But here's where Troy's story takes an interesting turn. This is the Woodlands home before the fire. And this is what it looks like now. A scorched earth, the vegetation gone, countless beautiful pine trees burned down. So imagine their surprise when this year, the appraisal of this land and its value, along with Troy's property taxes, actually went up.
You know, I have other things that are higher priority for me than having to worry about property taxes going up every year, especially on property that I feel, for the most part, is destroyed.
You know, a lot of people think that we appraise the pine trees.
Mark Beneke is the chief appraiser for Bastrop County. He's got a staff of 17, and admittedly, it's been a tough year in his office. His employees were called out with FEMA and first responders as early as day 2 of the fire, assessing the damage while some of their own homes burned to the ground. We asked Mr. Beneke how a piece of land could increase in value after the land, trees, and everything on it burned to the ground. He told us their appraisals increased because Troy's neighbors are now selling their land for more.
We confirmed some sales that occurred after the fire and up until the first of the year. They were selling for more than what we had them appraised back in 2011.
Which means Troy Woodland's land value wasn't the only one that went up. Our investigation found every property owner in Troy's charred neighborhood saw their land value increase. Troy's neighborhood, which is in Section 12 of Pine Forest, and the only section that allows manufactured homes and site-built homes, has 85 lots. Our review of the appraisal records and sales data confirms 10 of those lots have sold, most for a higher price than the 2011 pre-fire appraisal. And since appraisal districts use land sales and comparables to help set appraisals, Troy's value went up after the fire destroyed everything. The 5 taxing districts, which includes the city, county, and school districts, decided against a reappraisal, as allowed by law following a natural disaster, instead opting to waive permits, fees, and other costs to help those homeowners rebuild.
I had to look at the data that I had is that here's properties that have been burned, the trees are gone or the trees are damaged, and there might be a slab there and they're paying X amount of dollars.
So it makes it very difficult for me to say, well, I'm just going to sell it and it's just going to be a chapter that I'm going to close in the book of my life, or should I keep it and once our kids are grown up and moved on, rebuild out here and get back to country living.
Like the community of Bastrop, Troy and his family are rebuilding. They found a new home in Hays County. But letting go of that country living is not as easy as it sounds. Troy has done his own appraisal and value in that charred land. And to him, it's much more than the increase from the appraisal district, because somewhere in all those memories is Troy's wedding ring. Well, the Bastrop Central Appraisal District also says overall appraisal values across the county are down. In fact, for 2012, all property owners in the affected fire zone received a one-time 25% across-the-board decrease in their land values, whether their homes were burned or not. And that includes Troy Woodland and his neighbors in the Pine Forest neighborhood. It all boils down to this. If homeowners in Pine Forest are rebuilding, they're going to pay a higher appraisal. If they're selling, according to the latest appraisal district numbers, they're likely going to get more from that land than it was appraised at in 2011. We're in the studio and we're live. Chris Willis, KXAN News.
Chris, we thank you for that as always. And if you have a story tip for KXAN to investigate, call our tip line 512-703-5255, or you can also send us an email to investigates@kxan.com.